Hi everyone, welcome to Instructional Video 1.1. So this is the first instructional video under Phase 4 of the Farm to Table project. So again, Farm to Table project that I have created here and developed, been working on, is really a project to essentially have students build and maintain their own school garden. And at the end result, we'll be harvesting those crops that the students decide to grow, and we will use those in our own meals or snacks in the cafeteria. So the phase one, the first phase of the 4 phases that I'll be talking about throughout this informational video series is all about nutrition. So before we get into that specific phase, I do want to talk about creating a Google Classroom for your students. So with COVID in this day and age, it may be normal for you to have a Google Classroom for your students. You may even be looking into creating a different Google Classroom solely for this project. So I just did want to run over some of the Google Classroom basics. But just to reiterate and to kind of remind you, as I will a couple times throughout this video, everything under Phase 1 and any instructional video you may need will be under this Replicate at Your School tab, and they will be organized by the phases you see here below. So today's we're just focusing on Phase 1. So if you go into your Google search tab, you can just search up Google Classroom and it will take you to classroom.google.com. If you click that, you'll see here that I already have a couple of mock classrooms set up, and I am a Google Classroom teacher. I use it constantly with my own 4th grade presently. So if you're looking to create a new classroom, or if you're new again to Google Classroom, you're going to want to click on the plus button right at the top. Now, it will give you an option to either join a class or create a class. And for this project, we're going to create a class. Again, you can instill any of these materials within your own classroom and streamline them that way. But again, if you wanted to create your own farm to table, so to speak, Google Classroom, or maybe you are strictly a science teacher or just a STEM teacher, you may want a separate Google Classroom for that. So we are going to create class. We will understand the agreement here. And for this, just for the purpose of this video explanation, I'm just going to put farm to table. If I were, and when I do implement this with my students, I am going to create a separate Google Classroom entitled farm to table. So once we create the class, it may take a second. You'll see here we have a whole stream board here, and this is where you really can communicate with your class. It's totally up to you. You have an easy access join code right here. You can obviously customize it a little bit, but I'm going to save the customization for another time. What I really wanted to show you is how to essentially add classwork to your stream and to your Google Classroom. So up towards the top, it's not necessarily the stream button, but the classwork button is what we're really going to work with today. You'll click that create button and it will give you quite a few options actually, which is nice and convenient. Personally, as a teacher and in my own classroom, I use the assignment button and I use the material button a lot. The material button, just something simple if you're just giving them a quick link. So that might be beneficial if you're just giving your students a quick, a link to, say, per se, a YouTube video or something just that they can access really easily. But an assignment actually gives you quite a few different features. So if I click on assignment here, I might title this, for say, the first phase in the farm to table project. I might include every single element right there. So I'll call this phase 1, nutrition. And I can obviously provide my students there with instruction, totally up to you, depending on how much you speak to them in class, whether you're face-to-face or you're virtual. I intended farm to table to be more of a face-to-face thing, but obviously we don't really know what's going to happen tomorrow, let alone next week, so it is nice to have that Google Classroom as kind of a safety blanket. So if I were to put in my instructions there, you could be as specific as you want. Now down here we have a couple different tools. You can upload a file, you can insert a link, you can insert a direct YouTube video, which I personally like to do because it doesn't lead my students down a YouTube rabbit hole. It keeps them pretty focused. You can also add different various items like within Google Drive, but what we're going to do today is we're going to add a file to Google Drive. So you'll click that button. Now for me, it's going to prompt quite a few different things. I've got some recent documents on here, and again, you may or may not know this depending on how comfortable you are using Google Classroom, but you just click on what you'd like. So if you were to take any of the elements off of my page, per se, the nutrition note catcher, I have it set up so it forces a copy. So if I click on this nutrition note catcher, it will ask you to copy the document. If you click make a copy, it will make a copy that is your own, and you can rename it, you can manipulate it however you'd like. I totally understand that my materials, not every little detail may work for you, and your class sizes and your levels might be different. So I think that this is a really great way for all sorts of teachers to be able to adapt my creations. So again, if it does prompt you to force a copy or make this copy, just click make a copy. So going back to where we were, it should, after you make a copy, it should come right up here in your recents. If not, you can search for whatever you saved it as. You'll click on the nutrition note catcher. And what's really important is that you want to make sure that not students can view it, you actually want to make a copy for each student. When it makes a copy for each student, that means that each individual student can edit it how they please. If you make it so students can just edit the file, you'll have per se 20 students editing at once, and I've made that mistake before. You'll have students typing all over each other. It's a big pain. And then with viewing file, students won't have any editing options, they'll just be able to look at it. So similar to forcing a copy for you, this will make an individual copy for each student. And that makes it really easy for me and on the educator end for me to go through, and I can look actually underneath this assignment and look at what students, their progress and which ones are where. So I think this is a really, one of my personal favorite tools that Google Classroom has instilled inside the classroom itself. It's super beneficial. You can kind of see that individualism within the project. So once that's all set, you can come over here. If you needed to specify it for certain students, if you didn't have students or students that didn't want to work on this, or you maybe per se were putting them in groups and just had a team leader, you can specify the students here. There should be a pretty long drop down box. Once you have students add, you can make it a point value if you'd like. It's totally up to you, and a due date. And you can also put it under a specific topic. So again, if you wanted to organize your stream a certain way, you totally could do that. But I think that honestly the most beneficial part is really just getting it so that students each have their own copy. If you're putting everything into one Google Classroom, it shouldn't be too crazy or anything. But once I have everything that I want, I seem pretty happy with it, I will click assign. You can also schedule assignments. That's totally up to you. I usually do it so I can assign it right away. And again, they're going to prompt you to add a topic just to organize it. So I might say, I'll create a topic here. I might just say phase 1 just to make it easier for my students to access it. And that way I can drag right down there below. So once that's all set, students, once they join with the code or you plug in their emails, will be able to access this immediately, which is really beneficial. So the last thing in this instructional video that I really just wanted to go over was the nutritional note catcher itself. So if I go back really quickly, it should show me the nutritional note catcher. So the point of this note catcher is to really just keep students on track, to get them learning about what foods what nutrients we find in our foods. There's a little introductory slide here. And again, once this is your own copy, you can do whatever you'd like with it. But it's really just a way for students to kind of make a virtual notebook and to show me what they know. So it is chock full of resources. My school district and myself personally, I prefer Epic resources. It's really free and easy to make an account. And I have some great books listed here that are linked. Again, you can manipulate this however you want. There's Growing Nutritious Food, How to Read a Food Label. This again can be paired with in-person lessons, actually bringing in food labels and having students look at them, thinking about the different types of food they see at their own house. This really can be extended for a lengthy period of time if you're really trying to teach them about health and wellness. But again, that is totally customizable to what you and your students need. I do have a little checklist here so they can, once they have read it, you can tell on the Epic app, but you can have them, reach that accountability piece by clicking and dragging those check marks. I also have included some web resources on the following page, and again, these are just links. They can click and drag the check marks when they're done. And then this is where they can kind of move and manipulate as they read and as they listen. It'll ask you why we need vitamin A. Why is that important to our bodies? And then over here, you'll have to teach them how to insert images of food that contain vitamin A, which is actually pretty simple. If we click on this little box here, and if we click insert, and the easiest way for students to do this, and I've worked with students in both fourth grade and first grade, and I found that not only the safest way, but the easiest way is to do it within slides and to not open a separate tab. You click insert, image, and then search from web, and it'll bring up this little tab right here. So if I wanted to search up per se a broccoli, so I could start, oops, and then they can click it right there, and then all they have to do is click on the image that they want. These are all like obviously safe images for students, and then they can just click the insert button and it will drop it right on the page, and then they can obviously resize it. But I think this is a great tool for, oops, let me move myself over. I think this is a great tool for students of all ages to learn how to do, just because we are moving towards that technology dependence, and they really need to know how to do that. I have been able to successfully teach this to younger students, like first grade, so I know that it can be done. I have found it helpful because obviously with the keyboard and the computers themselves, there are a lot of buttons for students to remember. I have printed out in the past like little index cards with the directions and where to find the buttons, like the insert image, just so they can remember, and I found that to also be helpful for students. So much like vitamin A, students will also be able to learn about vitamin B12, C, D, E, potassium, fiber, magnesium. So they're really kind of getting that well-rounded knowledge of nutrition, because personally at my age, that was something that I wasn't really, taught about, other than, oh, milk is good for you. That was kind of all I was given. Eat your fruits and vegetables. But it's really important for kids to know that why. They can back up that reasoning for the healthy choice. Finally, students will complete a short Google form. You can click on mine. Again, it will, this link here, it will force a copy again. However, again, if you have younger students or older students and you'd like to alter the copy, you are free to do so. So again, just as I stated before, all of this information, along with this particular instructional video, as well as the 2 other instructional videos for Phase 1, will be listed under the Replicate at Your School tab under Phase 1 Nutrition. So I hope that this was super helpful, and I'm looking forward to walking you through the rest of Phase 1 in the next instructional videos. Thanks!